All right. Greetings, everybody. Well, we can start if anybody wants to bring anything up or ask something, or otherwise I'll share one uh new resource and we can look at other projects. I'll just open with this one. So I mean it's 3 weeks old. You can debate if that's old or recent. But it's an OCR model that's specialized for technical work. Facebook research, but it's open source. This may be very useful for our knowledge engineering work and for most of our non-OCR'd texts. But just an example about what is becoming more possible. And then once the kind of keystone technology is there, then there could be like wrappers and this can be provided more as a service, but it isn't long until somebody just makes a front end that lets you point this at a folder of PDFs or upload PDFs and get the transcripts. I'm
Can you
not
say
sure
what
how.
it does, Daniel? Can you say what it
Yeah.
actually does?
I mean, we can look at the technical details, but it's basically an optical character recognition OCR algorithm that is specialized or trained on technical images. So it can parse not just plain text OCR, which is kind of the classic setting, but where you have equations. And so I don't know how it will handle all the representations that are used in the system science corpus, but that could bring a huge number into play. For example, if it were used on a textbook where it said, by A, I mean this, B means this, and C means that, and then here's the equation, then that equation would be like fully indexed and it could be rewritten with different variables or so. I don't know, just want to bring it up since it seemed like on the knowledge engineering side, a big piece of it was that we had a lot of text that might be actually accessible from a copyright perspective, but just not OCR'd yet. So, yeah.
Does that get into math ML then? To actually recognize equations?
Interesting about math ML, like, I'm not sure exactly how this is related to LaTeX, which some people use LaTeX.
Right.
Some people use for representing like the entire manuscript, including the equations with math. I'm not exactly sure. But once you're in the space of viable LaTeX, then it's usually straightforward to move it from one clean formal system into another clean formal system. But getting that first step in from the PDF image, the scanned, potentially noisy PDF into the OCR. So
yeah, the three big pain points we have in accessibility are our PDF, the whole thing about virtual worlds and stuff. Now there's actually a XR accessibility community that I've started to make some contacts with, but our people with disabilities going to be excluded from these virtual worlds that are starting to merge, so that's technically that's a huge issue. But yeah, it's
What were the three issues? You said PDF version
yeah,
roles.
two of them
and-
are there. The third one like went right now.
The third one, there's always another thing to consider.
Exactly.
Um,
Yeah, you can model a EndNote open system with an N+1 closed system.
yes. Which one to add though?
Yeah, which you add one and you double the number of relationships. I mean, that's Pascal's triangle, but of course I'm preaching to the choir here.
Cool. What topic would people like to look at next? Anything we have listed here, or
Well, I was
Peter,
hoping Shanghai
yeah.
would be here, report on his activities, but
Oh yeah.
he's not.
Yeah, I guess just not here today, but seems like he's started school, and we met earlier in the week, talked a little bit more about SysXML,
Okay.
and just kind of going from like what we have a little bit like note status here to a plan and an outline for graduate school, and just kind of bringing more consilience and tractability to it, and just checking on things like, okay, like moving some of these notes into the GitHub, just so that this document just remains a ISSS document, and then some of the discussion that we already had can go out there to the GitHub. Peter, anything you want to?
No, not right now. I'm happy to be here and do it. I will say that PDFs that I digitized or Jennifer will be digitized have actually been OCR, so you can search them. So it would just be a question of making them more accessible with some search engine capability.
Yeah, I mean, if the text is even if it has like new lines inserted and like a extra comma here and there, from the semantic search perspective, it's already where it needs to be. I'll just since we're chilling, I'll share one other interesting thing. I was speaking with a friend who trains open source language models, and surprise, surprise, the quality / type of the input data is huge, and very small data sets, for example, of quality annotated functional code. Obviously, having a smaller number of those with no false examples is better than having like 10% non-functional programs, or having like, so then we're thinking about how we could train or fine-tune a language model on the active inference technical corpus. And there was an interesting discussion about, well, if you chop your training corpus up into single words, obviously you're not going to learn anything, because it's just a word list with not even a pairwise information gain. On the other hand, if you concatenated all of your texts into a single, mega.txt, you also would be learning spurious relationships, because you would have concatenated texts that weren't truly next to each other. So those relationships would not be understood, and so on. And so it's kind of like this happy medium where the best training set is chunked into idea-sized or lengthed pieces with local semantic coherence and closure, ranging from between essentially one sentence to one medium paragraph. And that even going through and just chunking papers into those lengths improves the training efficacy on the paper greatly. And so just kind of interesting about like meaning systems and just what is conveyed through language and languaging, and how some of these knowledge engineering and education functions, this is like already overthinking it. Like if it's just about finding documents that basically are talking about ecology, then like that's a relatively straightforward task. But then to really enable sophisticated reasoning that has the kind of articulations that we would imagine that it could have in terms of semantic inference, I just thought that was like kind of interesting from him coming from the data training side, saying like, yeah, if only people were sharing their insights in a chunked in the form of the idea, rather than even the document in a way is like not always the carrier of meaning. Okay, I'll go to this link. Carl, what is it?
It's that OECD, their emphasis on artificial intelligence. So.
Interesting. There. Systems. Classification of AI systems. Well, how about classifying them along qualities of systems?
I think they're kind of a group that helps, like, I think they're one of the groups that kind of fund stuff too, or the people who, I mean, think you, so that's a group we need to look at more. I'm not, maybe you guys probably know it more. I mean, I see it in some reports, but I have never really known much about them.
I don't know that much about them. Okay, they did develop the classification. Okay. Okay, high level dimensions, it's a Markov blanket. Systems lifecycle, convergent evolution of systems engineering and systems education. Soon it will be transdisciplinary. Or it will be, I mean, said to be that way because it's across domains. Also right now on the other AI front, this is the active inference conference it's basically the only in-person active inference conference. What would the move be here, Carl? Just, I mean, I'll add it to our notes, but I mean, to reach out from ISSS or like
no,
what?
I mean, this is actually work related. We got looking at some AI training and kind of really getting into that a little bit more, and so at a very high level to start with. So I'll be taking a look at this stuff more.
We can chat with Coda AI. We can, or we could look at any other topic or whatever you guys think.
Are you planning to maybe attend the N2 conference? I sent out that notice. The news sphere at 100.
Oh, let me go to that.
Noosphere at 1.
Yeah, here it is. I'll put it in the link in the chat again. Let's look at it again. In Berkeley, November. I mean, I don't plan to, but
Well, parts of it are going to be online for free, so
okay.
you can look it out. I'm planning on going. Tyler Volk is planning on going, and I think Lynn Rasmussen is planning on going.
Well,
We're all working on presentations, though we haven't been accepted yet.
Cool. I'm just gonna mark it. I mean, at the very least, I will be able to take the train or to drive to hang out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that'd be nice. I've been working with Tyler for I don't even know how many years now, 5, maybe 6, and we've never met in person. Primarily because of COVID, but then it's just always been on Zoom.
So while INCOSE hosts some of the professional and industrial side of systems and ISSS has more academic, is there a education convening for systems or any even in the past that people is there a little sub booth at other education conventions? Because I know we've talked about, I mean, that's literally what we're talking about. And so being able to it's interesting. Do it in person only and then do another thing online.
Yeah, that's another thing I'm actually looking at as part of my doctoral research is just kind of the models of how people are, like the conferences now, the in-person, the virtual, and the hybrid. But yeah, I saw this one as being interesting, is really kind of because doing the virtual after the fact and stuff, then it can really be capturing people's reflections from the in person, which seems to never. That's my pet peeve, is that we have all these conferences, they're great, they're inspiring, and then there's no follow through. It's like people don't talk to each other until the next year. And then, as you were saying, then we're just spinning the wheel, and it's like all the great stuff we were going to do, nothing's happening. So,
Well, in NCOSE, they do have working groups that generally, some of them are pretty active between workshops and conferences and so forth. The system science working group is sort of marginal. I wasn't privy to any actual work that got done in between workshops, but there is a model for, and SIGs are supposed to be active throughout the year. I don't know, I don't think any SIG that I'm aware of actually has done much work beyond maybe one or two people every once in a while talking to each other. But getting stuff done, I just have seen no evidence that,
Yeah.
you know, that anybody's making any progress. And that's whether it's, you know, doing further research or, um, I don't know.
Yeah, our website is updated, or the ISSS 2024 is going to be the third week of June here in Washington, DC. So one of my wishes has come true and stuff. So having it, so I mean, that's part of it, is gearing towards anticipating what presence can we have there and going forward. So that's.
There we go. There it is.
Yeah, I walked right by that university once. Or drove by it, I guess.
UDC.
Yeah.
Yeah, Fielding actually has a relationship with them now. So we actually, our DC office is actually on their campus. You know? We got some things where we're, some faculty are co-teaching classes. So.
Let's see if there's a systems class. This one also looks to be in person, also in Chicago, and then 2 weeks later, or at least it was in 2023. Probably not that informative here. But this is the from the computer science systems where George, you spoke about having students from computer science and engineering.
Yeah.
Mathematical systems, management, information systems, food systems, nursing systems. It's like global systems. These are the fields. And so it's just like, it's not even like a path has to be blazed. It's not even an adjacency. It's like an enclosure. But then what can that ISSS provide, or what can system scientists and educators provide that that supports that nexus amongst even all these classes?
Yeah. I mean, the word system is applied quite loosely and quite easily. It's facile. You know, anything where you've got more than one component and they seem to be related to each other, we call it a system. And the thing about system science is a study of what is true about all these systems, and you know, hopefully rigorous. Some of these, like you get into, well, take operating systems. We call operating system. What does that mean? It's just the tying together of all these various functional elements that makes the computer do what you want it to do. And nobody looks at it in terms of like holarchy, for example, or nobody looks at it as a network. Or we certainly deal with the complexity, but we don't analyze the complexity in quite the same way that you would like to. So what I tried to do when I was teaching was bring some of these elements, some of the so-called principles, into play and help students understand the complexities of an operating system by virtue of so when you bring it in as a system and really look at it as a system, you can relate it to other things, experiences in their lives, that where they can actually say, oh yeah, okay, that I see that connection, and then go back and look at what's going on in the OS itself. So that's the thing, I think, is that if you take a look at any area of study that says they're working on a system, and then you look at it in detail, what is it, what systemness are you actually looking at? Or are you just treating all these things because they're connected? Still in a reductionist or purely reductionist manner. So I don't know. I think I still firmly believe that system science needs to be done as a discipline, with the recognition that it's a meta discipline. And then people can apply it to all these other things that they're calling systems.
Thanks. That's very helpful. I mean, it makes me think about looking at the text of where the terms are used and finding those overlaps already where even the actual principles are used in discussion of a system, and like locking in and surveying and understanding what has totally convergently ad hoc arisen. Just somebody being like, well, food systems have governance, or food systems have learning. But the thing is, that's going to be like current opinion in food science. And it's going to be like hot take. People should think about this. And so that's like a disciplinary view rising up and then taking a view on its own discipline, yet still not seeking to generalize across disciplines. Otherwise, it literally would be system science, which is why there are so many perspective and opinion pieces and reviews, other than being easy to write and highly cited, that people just will highlight like, well, actually people need to think about this concept in this discipline. And sometimes those calls to attention are meaningful. I'm not saying they're not, but those can be en masse composed by juxtaposing systems of interest by properties of systems. And then other adjectives or other processes can be brought in, but like the starting some of the key starting and scaffolding work has already been done by system science. Now, is that seen as a disciplinary intrusion? Like, how do you know this is relevant, or how is this relevant, or this isn't how we do it or think about it? Or that's a lot to think about, or I'm only trying to understand this system of interest, not necessarily trying to learn about all of them. That's where I think especially the tools come into play. so that people can work with the increased fluency and awareness and capacities with their system of interest without needing to take on this enormous theoretical load.
Mhm.
Just like chemistry, okay, baking soda and vinegar, not taking on all the industrial engineering process. You just get those ingredients, you know it's going to work a certain way. You just happen to know if our food system is written in sysxml, we're going to be able to have it cross-render in different languages, be amenable to graphical displays. It will also be compliant on this and this and this, and it's going to save us a lot of effort. It's just strictly the best thing to use. And then sysxml would be underlain by technicalities, just like Zoom is, just like numbers are. Then what are the links to make?
Well, listening to you talk about this, something occurred to me. Imagine a system scientist, somebody who has studied system science, knows the principles and all the things, as consultants called in on other areas. If people say, "Hey, I've got a system here that I want to just like the practitioners or consultants in a business environment, going in, studying the business processes and whatnot, and the governance structure, and then saying, oh, well, you need to intervene here and here. So the system scientists could go in to other sciences, other areas where they're saying, we would like to have, but we think we have a system here. What are we missing? Something's not working. What are we missing? I don't know. That was just a random thought that fired off.
I support that path and livelihood. And again, people are called in to do exactly that, but not under the system science. However, I mean, not that I know this area well, but people use systems dynamics and other systems,
Yeah.
Asterisk everything, systems thinking, systems change, systems innovation. It's just they're being paid and hired.
Yeah.
And so then the empirical question is whether the value can be co-created and conveyed and distributed. I really like this like scientific consulting area, like collaborative, actually even touching into the analytic autoethnography that Carl has raised some time ago, coming into the theoretical development stages, which are always ongoing in disciplinary science, and having somebody off on the side who's connecting to different broader areas of theory, which is what you need for the introduction, the discussion, and the grant writing, and being like a mega peer reviewer with the substance of the system, it's systems neuroscience, or it's some other work, but just being like kind of interfacing it better with systems through usage of language and formalism. And it's almost like, so if every discipline only has lateral connections to its own discipline, that's the cliquishness. Everybody's in their own ontology, their own quantum reference frames. And then but we all need the interface with systems, whether people see that as up as an abstraction or whether they see that as down, but or in. But then everybody building that one edge to systems ontology grants total interoperability that's extendable instead of a pairwise interdisciplinary approach, which is either going to be general enough to be system science or so limited that it only connects locally.